The Galactic Council Hall was not just a building. It was a world of its own. A structure so huge that a small city could fit inside it. Silver towers reached up to the clouds, and glowing energy lines ran along the floors, carrying power, light, and data. Every seat floated on a cushion of anti-gravity. Thousands of beings from 1,000 worlds sat in silence, waiting for the meeting to begin. They had gathered to discuss one subject: humans. Whispers filled the air like soft thunder. Translators hummed, turning hundreds of alien languages into a single clear voice. Some faces were made of light, some of stone, some were covered in scales or fur. Yet every being shared the same emotion today: unease. At the center of the hall, the great silver circle began to glow. A tall figure stepped forward. His skin was dark gray, covered with sharp scales that reflected the light like armor. His red eyes burned as he looked around the hall. This was Ambassador Sthara of the Vrex Dominion, one of the oldest and most feared species in the galaxy. When Sthara spoke, entire planets listened. "Fellow members of the Council," he said, his deep voice echoing through the chamber, "we face a growing threat. A danger that we have ignored for too long: the humans." A wave of whispers spread instantly. Some nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably in their floating chairs. 50 years ago, Sthara continued, we welcomed Earth into our great community. We believed they would follow our rules, respect our order. But we were wrong. Behind him, a huge screen came to life. Images filled the air: human ships flying through the stars, colonies being built on new worlds, trade agreements signed with smaller races. In half a century, Sthara said, they have spread to 12 star systems. Their population grows faster than any other known race. Their technology advances beyond prediction. And their ambassador, he turned his red gaze toward the human section, has been too successful. All eyes turned to a small group sitting quietly among the giants of the galaxy. At the center was Ambassador Katie Sullivan, Earth's representative. She wore a simple blue uniform, nothing grand or glowing. Her short brown hair framed calm eyes that watched and measured every word. She did not speak. She simply listened. Sthara went on, his tone sharpening. Humans offer better trade deals to our younger members. They teach ideas about freedom and equality. They spread their influence like a virus. If this continues, they will soon control the balance we have kept for thousands of years. The room filled with uneasy murmurs. Some aliens agreed. Others looked unsure. Then, from a far corner of the chamber, a quiet, trembling light appeared. It was Elder Morin of the Ethereal Collective, the oldest known species in the galaxy. His body shimmered like blue fire. His kind had long ago become half energy, half spirit. He was ancient, so old that most thought he spoke only when history demanded it. You speak of balance, young Vrex, Morin said softly, his voice carrying through every corner. But do you remember why we have rules? Do you remember the first law? The hall grew silent. Even Sthara paused. Morin's light pulsed gently as he spoke. Long ago, before your species built its first ship, there was another empire, the Harthani. They were proud, powerful, and believed no one could challenge them. Then they met another race. A small one. A race that loved its children more than life itself. His voice became colder. The Harthani thought they could control this race by threatening what they loved most. They attacked the children. A shiver went through the room. The younger species looked confused. The older ones looked afraid. What happened to them? Asked a small, curious delegate from the edge of the hall. Morin's glow dimmed. The parents burned the galaxy, he said. They destroyed the Harthani completely, wiped their name, their cities, their stars. Not one trace remains. And from that fire, the first law was written. Katie Sullivan leaned forward, her calm voice breaking the silence. And what does this first law say, Elder? Morin turned his light toward her. Never harm the young of any species capable of interstellar travel. For their parents will burn the galaxy to ash in response. The words hung in the air like a shadow. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Sthara laughed. It was not a friendly laugh. It was sharp, echoing, cold. Superstition, he said, waving one clawed hand. Old stories told to scare children. The humans are not gods. They are soft. They talk of peace and kindness. They can be controlled. Morin's light flickered darker. So did the Harthani believe. Sthara ignored him and faced the council again. My people have watched the humans grow too powerful. They have 12 colony ships traveling to the Kepler 442 system, carrying families and children. We must act now, before they spread further. Katie's face hardened, but she said nothing. The council members whispered again. some agreeing, some afraid to oppose the Vrex dominion. Thara smiled, a slow, dangerous smile. We will remind them of their place. We will test this so-called ancient law. He turned toward the great screen, where human colony ships drifted peacefully among the stars. Let us see, he said softly, if the myth is true. The chamber went still. Even the air felt heavy. Elder Morin's fading voice was the last sound before the session ended. You do not test the storms, Thara, he whispered. You survive it. But the warning came too late. The decision had already been made. And far beyond the council's shining halls, 12 human ships carried sleeping children toward Kepler 442, unaware that in the darkness ahead, something terrible was waiting. The meeting ended, but the whispers never stopped. Even as the floating chairs drifted away and the lights dimmed, the words, "First Law," echoed in every corridor of the Galactic Council Hall. Outside the chamber, Ambassador Katie Sullivan walked alone through a long glass hallway that showed the endless stars of the core systems. Her reflection stared back at her in the window, a tired woman trying to stay calm in a room full of monsters. Her communicator blinked with a coded message from Earth Command. Remain diplomatic. Observe only. Do not provoke. She sighed. Observe? How could she simply watch while the council discussed humans as if they were a virus? Behind her, soft footsteps approached. Elder Morin glided silently beside her, his glowing form flickering like candlelight. You spoke truth in the hall, Katie said quietly. I only spoke memory, Morin answered. But they will not listen. Pride blinds them. Fear pushes them toward foolishness. Do you think they'll act? Morin turned his burning blue eyes toward the stars. They already have child. The council never debates for long when fear is involved. Before she could ask what he meant, a small drone floated past, a messenger sphere from the council chamber. Its surface shimmered red, emergency vote in progress. Morin's glow dimmed. There. It begins. In the great hall once more, only 12 seats remained occupied, the core members the oldest and most powerful races. The doors were sealed, no outsiders allowed. Even the translation devices were turned off to ensure secrecy. Thara stood at the center, arms crossed. We all know the problem. The humans are expanding too fast. If we wait another decade, they will have their own council. Their alliances multiply daily. A tall insectoid being clicked its mandibles. The Erelix hive agrees. Their trade freedom already reduced our profits by 30%. Another voice, mechanical and cold, came from a chrome sphere. The synth collective also votes for restriction. Humans spread chaos. Only one voice hesitated, the soft, melodic tone of the aquatic Lunari envoy. But attacking colonists, families, it goes against the first law. Thara's red eyes flashed. An ancient superstition. Do not tell me you fear bedtime stories. The Lunari lowered her gaze. I fear repeating history. But one by one, glowing symbols appeared in the air, votes recorded by each member. 10 for intervention. 2 against. The motion passed. The secret vote was complete. A coded order was sent instantly to the Vrex Dominion fleet. In their encrypted language it said only, intercept Kepler convoy. Secure or eliminate. No witnesses. Hours later, Katie's assistant, a young diplomat named Jonas, rushed into her quarters, eyes wide. Ma'am, they locked the records. The last council session is sealed under Article 47. Only core members can access it. Katie's hands trembled. That means they voted without us. Yes, and there's more. The Vrex fleet left orbit an hour ago. Destination unknown. She felt cold all over. Kepler 442, she whispered. Without waiting, she began typing on her console, sending a coded burst transmission to Earth. The message read, Council preparing hostile action. Protect colonies. Do not trust Dominion. Before she could finish, the signal cut out. A communications jammer activated inside the diplomatic wing. She looked up at Jonas. They're blocking Earth channels. We have to warn someone. Just then the door slid open. 2 tall Vrex guards stood there, their armor gleaming red. Ambassador Sullivan, one said coldly, the council requests you remain in your quarters. For your own safety. Katie forced a calm smile. Of course, she said. When the doors shut again, she turned to Jonas. Safety, she repeated bitterly. That's what predators tell prey before they strike. Meanwhile, far from the shining core of the galaxy, 12 human colony ships drifted peacefully through the void. Children laughed in the hydro gardens, chasing each other between trees that grew in zero gravity. Families plan new lives on Kepler 442, a world of blue oceans and green continents waiting for them. They didn't know that fleets were already on the move. In the darkness beyond sensor range, Vrex warships unfolded from hyperspace. Their black hulls reflected no light. Dozens of them surrounding the human convoy like wolves around sleeping deer. On the flagship Vexor Prime, Admiral Stara stood before the holographic display. "The orders are clear," he said. "No survivors." "But sir," one of his officers asked, uneasy, "these are civilians, there are children aboard." Stara's red eyes narrowed. "Then let us see if their parents truly burn galaxies." He raised one clawed hand. "Prepare the plasma lances." Back at the council hall, Morin floated in silence within his dark chamber. His energy flickered weakly, a sign of great sorrow. He could feel it. Across the gulf of space, something terrible was unfolding. "You warned them," a voice said from the shadows, another ethereal, glowing softly. "They do not listen," Morin replied. "They never do. They think the first law is a myth." "And if it is not?" Morin's glow brightened, a single spark of blue fire in the darkness. "Then soon the stars themselves will remember why it was written." Katie sat near her window, staring at the silent stars outside the council station. Somewhere out there, 12 human ships carried thousands of lives. Mothers, fathers, children, trusting that peace still meant something. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "Please don't let it be too late." Behind her, the communication console blinked once, weakly. A single phrase managed to escape the jamming field. One last desperate transmission from the human convoy. "Unidentified ships detected. Requesting assistance." Then static. Katie closed her eyes as the noise faded. Far away in the blackness between stars, the Vrex fleet's weapons began to glow. The galaxy held its breath. And thus, the first law was about to be broken. In the cold silence of deep space, the 12 human colony ships moved like silver lanterns drifting across the dark. Their engines glowed a soft blue. Inside there was peace. Children played in long glass corridors, chasing small drones that floated like toys. Parents watched stars slide past the windows, whispering to each other about the new life waiting on Kepler 442, a world full of promise, oceans, and sunlight. Captain Mira Hayes of the flagship Aurora Dawn stood on the bridge, smiling at the view. "Navigation, how long to arrival?" she asked. 36 hours, Captain," replied her officer. "All systems normal." For a moment, everything was perfect. Humanity's dream was alive. Families, scientists, builders, and teachers all heading toward a fresh beginning. Then the sensors flickered. "Captain," said the helmsman, frowning, "we're picking up something. Multiple signals. Unidentified." Mira turned to the screen. "Show me." In the next second, the darkness ahead filled with shapes. Dozens of ships. Large, sharp, and silent, their hulls black as shadow. Her heart sank. "Those aren't traitors," she whispered. The unknown ships spread into a formation. The sensors screamed with energy readings. "Broadcast to all channels," Mira ordered. "Identify yourselves. This is a civilian convoy under council protection." There was no answer. Only silence. Then a voice came through, cold, distorted, and calm. "This is Admiral Stara of the Vrex Dominion. You are trespassing in restricted territory. Cut engines and prepare for inspection." "Inspection?" Myra's voice hardened. "Our route was approved by the Galactic Council. You have no..." Before she could finish, a flash of light erupted from the nearest Vrex ship. A beam of blue plasma struck the smallest colony transport. The ship exploded in a silent burst of fire. Screams filled the communication channels. "Ship 9 destroyed. Casualties, hundreds. Children on board." Mira froze for a second, disbelief turning into rage. "Return message," she shouted. "We are unarmed. There are civilians here." The Vrex voice replied with cruel calm. "Then you should not have brought them." On the Vexor Prime, Admiral Stara watched the destruction unfold with cold satisfaction. Each blast tore through the convoy like a blade through paper. "Proceed," he said to his gunners. "Eliminate all." One officer hesitated. "Admiral, the signals show escape pods, children." Stara's eyes flashed red. "Fire." Outside, glowing streaks of plasma lit the void. One by one, the colony ships vanished into clouds of debris. The stars turned red in their light. Back on the Aurora Dawn, chaos ruled. The hull shook violently as explosions rippled nearby. Warning sirens screamed. Crew members ran through smoke-filled halls, guiding terrified families toward the escape bays. Captain Mira grabbed the comm, "All ships, scatter. Repeat, scatter and run." The convoy broke apart, trying to flee in every direction. But the Vrex fleet was faster. They cut through the humans like hunters chasing prey. On deck 4, small children huddled near the escape pods, crying. A mother held her son close. "It's okay," she whispered, though her hands trembled. "We'll reach Kepler. We'll be safe." The ship shuddered again. Power failed. Lights flickered out. Mira rushed to the emergency console. "Send a distress signal. Use every frequency." "Transmission active," said her officer. Signal strength dropping. The final message from the Aurora Dawn burst into the void. "This is Captain Hayes. Under attack. Civilians aboard. Someone help." Then static. Far away in the council station orbiting the core, Ambassador Katie Sullivan felt her stomach twist as the distressed tone reached her console, then died. She stared at the blank screen, her voice a whisper. "No, please no." Behind her, Elder Morin appeared, his form flickering like weak flame. "It has begun," he said softly. "They're attacking the children," Katie said, trembling. "They actually did it." Morin's glow darkened. "Then the stars will remember the fire." Back at the battlefield, wreckage floated across space. Pieces of hull, drifting lights, frozen figures. Silent testimony to the breaking of the first law. But among the destruction, one ship still burned, not destroyed but damaged. It was the Aurora Dawn. Inside, Captain Mira dragged herself across the floor toward a glowing console. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead. She pressed a single button, the backup transmitter. A faint pulse of light shot from the wreck, racing faster than sound or flame. A signal, encrypted, short, desperate. "They broke the law. Children dead. Tell Earth. Remember Kepler 442. Then the ship's core collapsed and the Aurora Dawn was gone. 4 hours after the attack, the Vrex fleet moved through the wreckage, searching for survivors. They found none. Or so they thought. From a small escape pod drifting among the debris, a single beacon blinked, faint, almost invisible. Inside, a little girl slept, wrapped in an emergency blanket. Her heartbeat pulsed softly against the silence. The pod's automated systems whispered through static. "Survivor detected. Transmission ongoing." The signal carried across the stars, weak but alive. When the Vrex fleet jumped back to hyperspace, the battlefield grew still again. No voices. No movement. Only the cold remains of 12 human dreams. Yet somewhere in the black distance, a faint echo moved through hidden communication lines, bouncing from satellite to satellite, until it reached a single listening post near Mars. An operator blinked at the strange signal. "Command, we're receiving something from Kepler route, coded human distress, priority alpha." He paused. The last words in the message made him shiver. "They attacked the children." Back in the council hall, Stara returned to his seat as if nothing had happened. "The human threat has been contained," he announced calmly. "Their expansion is no longer a concern." But Morin's eyes glowed brighter, his ancient voice trembling. "You have no idea what you've done." Stara smirked. "We've done what was necessary." Morin looked out through the great windows toward the endless stars. "No," he said softly. "You've done what was forbidden." His voice fell like a whisper into the silence. "The first law is broken, and now the fire will come." The galaxy expected outrage. After the destruction of the 12 colony ships, the Council waited for Earth to scream in fury, to send fleets, to demand justice. But no message came. No ships appeared. No retaliation arrived. Just silence. At first, the Council believed humanity was broken, that grief had crushed them. But as the weeks passed, the silence began to feel wrong. Too calm. Too deep. Something was moving beneath it. Ambassador Katie Sullivan sat in her dark quarters aboard the Galactic Council station. 4 days she had replayed the distress signal from the Aurora Dawn, the one that ended in static. "They broke the law. Children dead. Tell Earth. Remember Kepler 442. Each time she heard those words, her chest tightened. Elder Morin visited often, his glowing form weaker now. He no longer spoke with wisdom. His voice trembled with fear. "They know," he whispered one evening. Katie looked up. "Who knows?" "The humans." The message reached them. "I can feel it, through the quiet." "Then why don't they respond?" she asked. "Why aren't they here?" Morin's light flickered once. "Because they remember the first law. And the ones who remember do not shout before the storm. They whisper." Across the stars, strange things began to happen. A mining colony owned by the Vrex Dominion suddenly went dark. A patrol ship vanished while passing through human border space. Then a cargo convoy sent a broken transmission before disappearing. We saw them, no warning, they came out of the dark. After that, silence again. At first, the council dismissed these as accidents, pirates, mechanical failures. But soon the reports multiplied. Communication hubs went offline. Supply routes turned cold. Entire stations stopped transmitting. And still no one saw a single human fleet. It was as if the galaxy itself had begun erasing the Vrex Dominion piece by piece. Admiral Thara sat in his war room, surrounded by flickering holomaps of empty sectors. More interference? He asked his officers. Yes, Admiral, one replied nervously. 6 colonies silent. No distress calls. Just gone. Thara's claws tightened. You think this is human revenge? The officer swallowed. No proof, sir. No wreckage. No ships detected. Nothing. Then find something. Thara slammed a fist onto the table. I will not be haunted by ghosts. But deep down he already knew. The humans were coming. He just couldn't see them yet. In the council hall, fear began to grow. Delegates whispered during every session. News drones spread rumors, human fleets preparing for war. Earth refuses communication. The council may lose control. Finally, an emergency meeting was called. Thara stood tall as always, pretending calm. Katie Sullivan sat quietly at her place. This time, her calmness no longer looked weak. It looked deliberate. A nervous voice spoke from the Lunari envoy. Ambassador Sullivan, can you confirm whether Earth intends to retaliate? Katie looked at her, her voice low and steady. Retaliate? For what? The question hung in the air. Everyone knew the answer, but none dared to speak it. Thara glared. You will not play games, human. You know what we speak of. Katie turned her gaze toward him, and for the first time, her expression changed. There was no diplomacy in her eyes, only something cold. I know you murdered families, she said quietly. I know you called it an accident. I know you laughed while they burned. Thara growled, but she continued. And I know this, humanity doesn't forgive when children die. She stood up and walked toward the exit. Every eye followed her. Where are you going? Demanded the Synth Collective's voice. Katie paused at the doorway. To listen, she said. When humans get quiet, it means they're listening. You should pray you don't hear what comes next. Then she left the hall. 3 days later, the first confirmation came. A Vrex fleet guarding a trade corridor near Delta Sarin reported multiple unidentified contacts. They tried to hail them, no answer. Then the entire fleet's transponders vanished from the network. When a search party arrived, all they found were floating hulls, melted, twisted, blackened as if by fire hotter than plasma. No human ships remained. Only the silence of the dead. The investigators recorded one eerie thing. Every destroyed vessel's computer core displayed the same message, burned into its data banks. Never harm the young. Thara stared at the report in disbelief. This is impossible. No fleet could move unseen through these systems. Morin appeared at the edge of the council table, his flickering form now dim and trembling. It is not impossible, he said softly. It is, remembered. Thara slammed his fist. Enough riddles, old one. Morin's voice deepened, echoing like thunder. You killed their children, Thara. You burned their future. And now the galaxy will burn in return. That is the way of the first law. The lights in the chamber flickered. For a moment, everyone felt something, a strange hum in the air like static mixed with whispers. Morin looked up. They're here. Out beyond the core worlds, deep in the dark between the stars, the first human fleet emerged from hyperspace. They moved without transponders, without signals, without words. Their ships were painted black, their hulls covered with new armor, designs the council had never seen before. At the center flew a massive vessel, 10 kilometers long, marked only by one symbol, a burning star wrapped around a child's hand. The humans said nothing. They broadcast nothing. They simply advanced toward the Vrex Dominion's borders. Back on the council station, Katie Sullivan stood by the window, watching the distant stars shimmer. Elder Morin floated beside her, his voice like wind. Once, long ago, another race made this same mistake. The universe still remembers their ashes. Katie didn't answer. She just whispered softly, we warned them. Morin's light flickered once more, fading slowly. The silence is over, Ambassador. The response has begun. Far away, in the black between suns, the first flashes of light appeared. Not explosions yet, just the glow of engines coming online. Then the stars dimmed one by one. The galaxy was holding its breath again. And soon it would burn. The Vrex Dominion had ruled half the galaxy for 1,000 years. Their fleets filled the skies, their colonies stretched across 100 worlds, and their arrogance had no end. But that was before they broke the first law. Before they killed human children. Now their empire was about to learn what silence really meant. In the command chamber of the human flagship Eden's Wrath, Admiral Rian Keller stood before a holographic map glowing with enemy positions. Dozens of red markers, Vrex fleets, stations, colonies. All targets. "Are we sure?" asked Commander Lu, his second-in-command. Rian's eyes were cold. "They murdered our young. There's no debate." "Then what's the plan?" The Admiral's voice was calm, almost emotionless. "The same as always. We don't conquer. We erase." When the first human ships entered Vrex space, they didn't send warnings or hails. They came like shadows, black hulls sliding through the dark, invisible to scanners. And then they struck. Orbital defense grids blinked offline. Planetary shields collapsed as if torn apart by unseen hands. And for every destroyed human colony, 3 Vrex worlds went dark. The galaxy watched in horror. Every news channel carried fragments of intercepted footage. A Vrex city glowing red from orbital fire. A warship splitting in half without a shot fired. Human ships vanishing again into the void. Some called it vengeance. Others called it extinction. But everyone agreed on one thing. The humans were no longer the same species that had once asked for peace. Inside the Galactic Council Hall, chaos ruled. Delegates shouted over one another. "The humans are out of control. They are committing genocide. Someone must stop them." But no one dared move. Every fleet that had tried to stop them was now gone. Ambassador Katie Sullivan stood alone in the center of the room. Her expression was calm, almost sorrowful. "Do you finally understand?" she asked quietly. "You broke the one law that kept this galaxy safe." Stara slammed his fist onto the table. "There is no law stronger than the Council." Katie's eyes narrowed. "You're wrong. There's one older than all of you, older than your council, your empires, your arrogance." She stepped closer. "It's the law that every parent in every species knows. Never harm the innocent." Stara growled. "You think your humans can destroy us all?" Katie tilted her head. "We don't think. We know." In the shadows above the council hall, Elder Morin appeared once again, his light faint but steady. "You were warned," he said, his voice echoing like thunder. "When the first law is broken, the balance shifts. Every species that has done so has faced the same fate." Stara turned on him, furious. "Then stop them, old one. Use your power." Morin shook his head. "The law cannot be undone. The storm must pass." And outside, the storm had already begun. Vrex Prime, the heart of the Dominion, was surrounded. Hundreds of human ships appeared in orbit, dark and silent. Their weapons glowed blue, humming like a single, endless heartbeat. On the planet's surface, civilians looked up at the sky. For the first time, the stars themselves seemed angry. Then, without warning, the bombardment began. Beams of light sliced through the clouds, shattering towers, melting war factories, tearing apart the Vrex command citadel. Admiral Stara watched it all from his bunker, the ground shaking around him. This can't be happening," he muttered. "They're just humans." His aide whispered, "Not anymore, sir." Moments later, the roof cracked open. A single human drop pod crashed through, steam hissing. The door slid open, and a soldier stepped out, armored in black, visor glowing faint blue. Stara raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the soldier spoke. "For the children of Kepler, 442. Then the chamber vanished in light. Back on the flagship, Admiral Rian Keller watched as sensors confirmed. Vrex Prime, neutralized. Commander Lu turned to him. "Orders, sir?" Rian stared out the viewport. "No further strikes. We've made our point." "Sir, what if they retaliate?" "They won't." He paused. "They've learned fear. That's enough." He turned off the holo map and whispered, almost to himself. "The first law is restored." In the following weeks, the war stopped. The Vrex Dominion surrendered every occupied system. The Council fell silent, unable to punish the humans, too terrified to provoke them. Earth sent no demands, no conditions. They simply withdrew, closing their borders, their fleets vanishing into the dark again. But the message was clear. The galaxy would remember. Months later, Katie Sullivan returned to the council hall for the first time since the war. Elder Morin appeared beside her, his form stable again, glowing softly. "It is done," he said. Katie nodded. "For now." Morin looked at her. "You carry sorrow, Ambassador." "I carry memory," she said quietly. "Because one day another species will forget. And when they do, someone must remind them why the stars burned." She turned to leave, but before she did, Morin spoke again. "You humans, your hearts burn brighter than your suns. That is your gift, and your curse." Katie smiled faintly. "Then may the galaxy never see us angry again." Far away, deep in a quiet corner of the Milky Way, the rebuilt Kepler 442 colony thrived again. Children played under blue skies. They laughed, unaware that their laughter had once avenged an empire. Above them, a satellite orbited, carrying a single message carved into its metal surface. The first law of the galaxy: never harm the children of any world. Humanity remembers. The stars twinkled overhead, peaceful now but watching. Because somewhere in that endless silence, the humans were still listening. And the galaxy would never forget the day the stars burned. The galaxy was silent. The fires had burned out. The wreckage of the Vrex Dominion floated like cold ghosts across the stars. Entire fleets reduced to drifting metal, empty and lifeless. And through that quiet darkness, the humans watched. They did not celebrate. They did not sing a victory. They only remembered. Because what they had done was not triumph. It was justice, and justice always leaves scars. At the Galactic Council, the once great chamber stood half empty. Many seats were dark, their empires gone. Only a few races remained, trembling as they whispered about the war that ended so many worlds. In the center, Elder Morin floated silently, his blue light dim but calm. He had seen this before, thousands of years ago, when another species had broken the first law and paid the same price. Now it had happened again. On a balcony above the council floor stood Ambassador Katie Sullivan. Her face was pale but strong. The war had changed her, the quiet kindness in her eyes replaced by a colder resolve. When the hall settled, she spoke. Her voice carried across the chamber, calm and steady. 50 years ago, humans came to this council asking for friendship. We believed in peace, in cooperation. We believed that the galaxy was a place of wisdom. She looked around. But wisdom forgot its oldest truth, that peace cannot exist without respect. Some delegates lowered their eyes. Others glared at her in silence. Katie continued, "We asked for nothing. We followed your laws. And you betrayed us. You murdered our children." The room trembled as her words echoed through the great hall. "And for that," she said softly, "the stars themselves burned." No one spoke. Even the translation devices seemed to pause, as if afraid to break the silence. Finally, Morin's old voice rose. "Ambassador Sullivan, what will you do now?" Katie looked up at him. "We will leave the council. Humanity will stand alone." Gasps spread through the hall. "You would abandon the galaxy?" a learned delegate asked, her scaled face trembling. Katie shook her head. "We would save it, from us. Because if the first law can be broken again, then let no one mistake what follows." She paused. "We do not want revenge. We want memory. The galaxy must remember what happens when innocence is betrayed." Morin nodded slowly. His light flickered brighter. "Then the law must be rewritten." The council members looked to him in confusion. He raised a hand and a great holographic tablet appeared above the center of the hall. The Codex of Galactic Law, ancient and glowing. The first line was still there, carved in the oldest language. The first law: never harm the young of any world capable of reaching the stars. Morin turned to Katie. "And now?" Katie took a deep breath. "Now add this." The tablet shimmered as new words appeared beneath the first law. The second law: never betray the children of Earth. The entire hall fell silent again. Every delegate could feel the weight of those words, a warning, not a threat. Morin's light dimmed slightly as he spoke. "The second law shall stand." Then he looked at Katie almost sadly. "But laws alone will not keep the peace. Only memory will." Katie nodded. "Then let them remember. Forever." Months later, far from the Council worlds, the Earth Alliance returned home. The fleets that had once carried destruction now orbited silently around Earth, like guardians watching over their world. Humanity began to rebuild. Kepler 442 was resettled. Families returned. Children laughed again. But in every classroom, on every colony, one lesson was taught before any other: the first law. And under it, carved into every school monument, one simple line: "We forgive but we never forget." On Kepler 442, under a gentle sunrise, A little girl named Lena stood beside her father. He was one of the survivors of the first attack, the day the Vreks destroyed their ships. "Dad," she asked, pointing to the stars, "is it true that humans burned the sky?" He smiled faintly. "It's true. But we didn't burn it to conquer. We burned it to make sure no one ever hurts children again." "Even aliens?" she asked softly. "Even them," he said. The little girl looked up at the bright blue sky and whispered, "Then maybe the stars are safe now." Her father nodded. "For now." Back at the ruins of the old council hall, Elder Morin floated alone among the empty seats. He had lived longer than any being in the galaxy. He had seen empires rise and fall, stars born and die. But humanity was something else. "They burn," he said quietly to the empty room, "but not like others. Their fire is different." He closed his eyes, his light pulsing softly. "When they love, they create worlds. When they lose, they move mountains. And when you touch what they love most." He opened his eyes again, faint blue flames flickering around him. "They burn the stars." Years later, the galaxy slowly began to heal. Trade routes reopened. New alliances formed. But every species now carried a silent rule, a whispered fear passed down from parent to child. Do not anger the humans. Do not touch their young. It wasn't law anymore. It was instinct. And in the vast dark of space, far from any world, a new satellite drifted silently. On its side, words glowed in ancient symbols, the same ones carved into the Galactic Codex. The forbidden order of the stars. The first law, never harm the young of any world. The second law, never betray the children of Earth. As it floated past the dying light of a distant sun, a quiet transmission echoed through space, a human voice, calm and eternal. "We are the children of Earth. We seek peace, not power. But remember this, if peace is broken, we will return. And the stars will burn again." The galaxy listened. And none dared to forget.